At first glance, the United States and Russia seem like distant giants, separated by the endless sweep of the Pacific Ocean. When we picture them on a map, the gap feels insurmountable, an entire ocean between two of the most powerful nations on Earth. But that perception changes the moment you look to the far north. Here, the two countries almost touch, their coastlines coming startlingly close across the icy waters of the Bering Strait. In this frozen corner of the world, the vast ocean narrows into a channel barely 80 kilometers wide, and at its very center sit two rocky outposts, the Diomede Islands. One belongs to the United States, the other to Russia, and the distance between them is just 4 kilometers. Standing on one, you can clearly see the other, so close that it feels within reach. Yet these twin islands are not only divided by nationality, but also by time itself. The international date line runs between them, creating a surreal 21-hour difference. You can literally gaze across the water and see tomorrow on the horizon. In winter, the sea ice sometimes stretches solid enough that a determined traveler could walk from one island to the other in less than an hour. But in reality, the crossing is forbidden, sealed by the politics of two great powers. And this is where the story deepens. Despite being so close that they could almost shake hands across the strait, Russia eventually chose to give up its claim to North America. In 1867, it sold Alaska, the crown jewel of its Eastern Empire, to the United States. That single decision has been debated ever since, raising one enduring question. Why did Russia really sell Alaska? Before we unravel the secrets behind Alaska's sale, make sure you subscribe to the African Web so you don't miss more stories that reveal the power plays of history. Long before borders and politics shaped the region, there was a time when Asia and North America were united by land. Around 11,000 years ago, the Bering Land Bridge, known as Beringia, connected Siberia to Alaska. Across this land, waves of human groups migrated eastward, hunting and foraging their way into new frontiers. They spread across the vast landscapes of the Americas, eventually becoming the ancestors of hundreds of distinct tribes and nations. But as global temperatures warmed and sea levels rose, this natural bridge disappeared beneath the waves, severing the continents. For thousands of years afterward, the peoples of the Americas lived in complete isolation, developing unique cultures and civilizations, unaware of the world evolving on the other side of the ocean. Centuries later, the rising power of Russia would reopen this frozen gateway. Following the defeat of the Mongols, Russia embarked on one of history's greatest expansions. Driven by ambition and the promise of riches, explorers, soldiers, and traders pushed ever eastward across the Siberian wilderness. Their prize was fur, luxurious pelts of sable, fox, and sea otter, nicknamed soft gold, for the immense profits they brought in Europe and Asia. By the 1600s, Russian settlers reached the shores of the Pacific. But curiosity and ambition demanded more. Peter the Great, determined to establish Russia as a global power, ordered expeditions into the uncharted East. In 1725, he commissioned the Danish navigator Vitus Bering to sail northward and discover what lay beyond Siberia. His journey confirmed that there was no land bridge to America, but it proved something equally important. Russia's reach could extend across two continents, linking Europe and Asia under a single empire. Bering's second voyage in 1741 pushed even farther into the unknown. After weeks of battling storms and icy seas, his expedition reached the coast of Alaska. There, they mapped rugged coastlines, described animals unknown to Europeans, and recorded their encounters with indigenous peoples. But the journey turned disastrous. Fierce storms wrecked ships, scurvy spread among the crew, and Bering himself perished on a desolate island. Yet from this tragedy came a spark of opportunity. Survivors who returned to Russia carried bundles of furs so fine that they caused a sensation. Almost overnight, traders swarmed toward the Aleutians and Alaska, determined to seize this new frontier. Settlements soon appeared. Indigenous peoples were coerced into hunting for Russian companies. and an empire across the Pacific began to take shape. This was the birth of Russian America. For a time, the venture seemed promising, but empires are expensive to maintain, and Alaska soon turned from prize to problem. Overhunting stripped the region of its once abundant fur animals, leaving profits dwindling. The native populations, devastated by disease and forced labor, collapsed under the pressure of Russian control. Meanwhile, rivals were closing in. The British, advancing from Canada, and the expanding United States both cast hungry eyes toward the north. To make matters worse, Alaska's isolation made it nearly impossible for Russia to defend. The Crimean War of the 1850s drained the empire's treasury, and when British and French forces attacked Russian outposts in the Pacific, the illusion of security shattered. By the mid-19th century, Alaska was no longer an asset. It was a liability, an expensive and vulnerable outpost on the edge of the empire. Faced with these harsh realities, Russia made a pragmatic choice. If Alaska could not be defended and no longer brought wealth, it was wiser to sell it than risk losing it to Britain. The United States, fresh from its Civil War and eager to cement its presence on the Pacific coast, was an ideal buyer. America dreamed of controlling more trade with Asia and expanding its influence westward. Negotiations resumed, and in 1867, Secretary of State William Seward sealed the deal. $7.2 million for a landmass larger than many European nations combined. Critics mocked him mercilessly, calling it Seward's folly, ridiculing the purchase as nothing more than a frozen wasteland. At 2 cents per acre, they said America had bought an icebox. But what looked like folly would soon be recognized as foresight. Alaska's true value emerged slowly but decisively. When it officially became a state in 1959, it was crowned the largest in the Union, covering more than 1.7 million square kilometers. Beneath its frozen ground lay treasures beyond imagination. Oil and natural gas fields fueled America's energy dominance, while its mines produced silver, zinc, coal, and gold. Nearly half of the nation's coal reserves came from Alaska, alongside over 10,000 kilometers of coastline and millions of lakes and rivers that boosted America's geography and trade. Strategically, Alaska became a fortress in the Pacific, a watchtower positioned directly across from Russia, shaping the balance of global power through the 20th century and into the present. Once derided as worthless, Alaska today stands as one of the shrewdest land deals in American history. So, what do you think? Was Russia's decision to sell Alaska a colossal mistake that cost it unimaginable wealth and power? Or was it simply the most practical choice, given the challenges of its time? Share your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into one of history's most surprising transactions, don't forget to subscribe to the African Web for more stories that reveal the hidden forces shaping our world.